Hello, YouTubers. This is another session where my brother Yasir and I continue our journey to build a virtual bazaar. In the last session, you and I worked a little bit on upgrading to .NET 7, right, Yasir?
Yeah, yeah,
And we worked on building the pipelines,
yeah.
GitHub pipelines in C Sharp, right? And
Hmm.
I really appreciate the community engagement. Everybody just coming in saying, "I want to be a part of this." People really love this whole idea of fluent representation of regex
Right.
expressions, but
Hmm.
also a fluent representation of a build kind of pipeline where people can just go in and say, okay, well, I want to be able to write the build pipelines and these this is very very amazing skill sets, and I'm very happy like ideas, and I'm very
Hmm.
happy that you're sharing that stuff with me and everyone else in the world. I want you to know that I love you a lot. You know that, right? You're a good
Yeah.
guy, right? All right. So let's go to the next step then. Now let's just check first our repository here just to make sure that we have the right stuff. Let's go to
Hmm.
GitHub, and you are Vazaar, and let's scroll back, and we don't have any open pull requests. The last pull request that was opened was to upgrade to .NET version 7, right? And now we
Hmm.
are actively working with .NET 7. In the configuration, you have .NET 7, .NET 7, you upgraded all the projects, you did all the magic, right? You didn't leave
Right.
anything of the fun for me at all. You just did everything.
Yeah, you
Finally.
guided me to do this. Thank you.
All
And
right, brother. Mm,
I modified the project files directly. I love
mhm.
going into the files and modifying it. So I did that
Yeah,
instead of
yeah,
going to
that's okay.
properties. Yeah.
That's like the gangster move. You're like being a badass. I'm not gonna. I don't need some UI to tell me what to do. I do my own code. That's how I do it.
I love to understand what is going on at the back end when you go to properties and modify that field. Then what exactly happens to the file where? So I'm a guy, just want to know what is going where.
The
So I
curious
love to do
guy.
that. Yeah.
The curious case of Benjamin Button. Okay, got it. By the way, in the ye olden days, Visual Studio used to claim some sort of proprietorship over the projects that you build. So if you're building a project in Visual Studio 2015, you couldn't open it in 2017, right?
Hmm.
For a period of time there, it was really hard, and you couldn't actually start a project, unless you actually do something called migration of the project to the new integrated development environment. And then that just
Hmm.
started to go away. Like, as we, all I could tell you is that the people that are sitting behind this integrated development environment are scary smart. Some of the smartest people. I'll try to bring some of them on my podcast just so you can see who's really behind the technology. And
Hmm.
and most of them are very humble and very nice, but in general, very, very smart people. Okay, now here's my question for you, my friend. Um, there are two paths that we can take here. There are two paths that we can take here. We can either work on a provision project where we write C sharp code to spin up, cloud instances to kind of support your platform. You could do that. Or you could start working directly in the actual domain and we start writing storage brokers and do migrations and all that kind of stuff. So which one of those would you like to start with? Do you want to do, migrations? Do you want to do you want to start with building the components and models, or do you want to build either one of them? So Shri Hamrida, we're working on something called a release pipeline. But in order for that release pipeline to happen, you need to have actual instances in Azure so you can release stuff in it, right? So just to visualize things for you, is it okay if I visualize things for you? Let's visualize
Yeah,
things
sure.
together, okay?
Hmm.
So let's go here and here and here and here and here, and then let's talk a little bit about this. Okay, so the first stage here is to just have a repo, a repository, and you already created that. You created a GitHub repository. Great. The next step is to be able to do the build, and you and I did the build last time, no problem there, right? The next step to the build, it branches out from here, right? This is DevOps. This is infrastructure development, right? Or development operations. You branch out from here. You can go into something called provision and then release, or you can go to release directly because provision is already in place. See how this works?
Mm-hmm.
So you have the code, you're building the code, now you have your binaries. You can
Mm-hmm.
actually kick off either to go build the instances in the cloud and then release, or you can go to release directly if the instances are already there. Does that make sense to
Yeah,
you?
yeah, yeah. Okay.
Now,
Mm-hmm.
what happens after that, right? What happens after that is that your software is already going in the cloud. So there's nothing after that. It just goes and releases to the cloud. So both of these, one creates the containers and one actually deploys the binaries. This guy you only call once to provision the instances. Although, in all honesty, I like continuous integration, continuous development, which basically means if you don't need the software, destroy the software, like deprovision, pull it down, right? So there is these two aspects. You have the cloud, then you have all of that. So right now, my dear friend, we have the repository. This is green,
Mm-hmm.
and we have the build,
Mm-hmm.
right? This guy, you can't do it yet. Shri and I didn't actually build that. They were still working on that one. If you're following that series, there's all these different threads that are running at the same time, and we're evolving as a community, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the release work is still in progress. Shri and I meet once a week, as her time allows. She's super busy, and we try to kind of, get things together. But that guy is possible. Or we can go back into the repo and start working on our core logic, right? Your repository will have all the core logic and stuff. Which route do you want to take? Either way, I'm okay with it. I'm only your assistant. I'm a consultant for you.
Mm-hmm.
So I am here to tell you here's the options. What do you want to do? Mm,
Okay. So here, see, there are a few guys who would like to join actually us for this project.
yep.
So there is Bilal and there's also Mohammed,
Uh-huh.
and there is one more. I think I will just ping him back. So
Bilal and Muhammad and Yasir and Hassan feels like the nation of Islam down here. What's going on? Go
I
ahead.
I I contacted a few of my friends actually, but I haven't received any feedback yet.
Hmm.
So I will just I'm just looking at them to get in touch with me. So
Yeah.
by the time Bilal and Mohammed, they contacted me, and I had a couple of I had a meeting with Bilal and Mohammed.
Uh-huh.
So so I think uh, le- maybe they will join us in the next week, and they can be a part of this development from start.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
if we don't touch the repo as of now, don't directly, we 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 can have provision as of now. We can go ahead with provision,
Okay.
and then we can start building our core, the the actual business
The
logic that
actual
is to be
application.
implemented. Yeah,
Sounds
so
good.
that these people can be they can benefit, they can come and be a part of this from the core itself.
Sounds good to
So
me.
yeah, so
Back
provision it
on
will take, yeah, so provision it will
provision,
have
probably a couple of sessions.
couple of sessions.
Yeah, it's a little bit of work, but it but it's
Yeah.
but it's very beneficial. I want you to know it. I want people
Hmm.
watching us to know about it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, I think we should go with provision, and I like that concept of we spin up the infrastructure, and then
Hmm.
we
You're building a
we
project from scratch. Just for the
yeah.
people, this is a lost art. People don't build projects like that anymore,
Mm-hmm.
right? There's no coherence.
Mm-hmm.
You coming up with this idea, you're benefiting a lot of people that you will never meet, and this will be your benefit. This is your sadaqah going forever.
Yeah, yeah,
So let's start the provision. All right.
yeah.
enough with the bromance. Let's get cooking. Okay.
Mhm.
So let's go to so let me just explain to you how the provision works from a high level perspective. Provision project is just like a normal project, except that it doesn't have tests, right? Testing it would be so meta, like you're testing infrastructure. If someone really wants to be that kind of guy and test it, that's fine. But I personally don't. So here's the deal. When you're writing a provision project, you need a bunch of brokers. Now, hear me out very well because this is really important.
Mhm.
All of these brokers basically are concerned with one single interaction with the cloud. Okay. Now, how does the cloud work? Yeah, sir. In the cloud, you need something called a resource group. And this
Mhm.
resource group helps us containerize or all our infrastructure components in the system, resource group. So that's number one thing we want to build is a resource group, my friend. Okay. The resource group, by definition, it contains resources in it, right? So what are these resources that we need in here? Well, for your software, we need few things. We need a database server that will contain a database in it. So this is a database server in here, and this database server will contain a database in it. That's how we're going to store information. Is that clear? A database server could have multiple databases in it. Okay, so this guy here is a database server, and this guy here is a database. So far, so good, right? No problem there. What else do we need? We need an app service, which is the API. This app service where you're going to deploy your code. When you spin up an ASP.NET Core API, it goes into something called app service. All right. And of course, we need to configure the app service to know how to talk to the database service server, right? What else do we need, my friend? We need something called a payment plan. The plan. What is this plan? This plan allows you to control the cost of your software, right? So this plan knows which resource it attaches your payment method to your
Mhm.
resources. So when your resources consume certain amount of money, it goes and pays that to the cloud providers. Okay. The last thing we need here is something called application insights. Application insights. An app insights is basically a simple component that gets attached to your app service. App insights. And what app insights do, it helps us know what's going on in our service. So app insights, app service is your database, and here's your database server, and this is your plan. So we need to create all of these resources in code.
So,
Okay?
so this plan is subscription plan you're talking about?
Yeah, it's a subscription plan. Right? And the subscription plan, of course, Azure gives you like $50 credit card, free credit, or $100, whatever you're doing. I should probably tell you, and it's probably nice to tell that if you so you're building this system as some sort of a startup in India, right? You can
Mhm.
actually ask the Azure folks to kind of, sponsor your project, so you don't have to pay for the cloud ever, right? I
Okay.
think there is a way you can do that. Anyway, don't worry about that for now. I'll even provision in instances that I run, in my cloud, so you don't have to worry about the cost or any of that stuff. I got you. But the one thing that I want you to really think about is that how are we going to provision these things? So we want one, two, three, four, five different components to be provisioned. So that means I want a app service broker. I want a database broker. I want a resource group broker, and I want a plan broker, and the last one is the app insights broker. Is that right? That sounds like a plan, right?
Mhm.
App insights broker. So far, so good, right? No problem
Mm.
there. Okay, what's gonna go on top of all of these? All of these are under something called iCloud Broker. It's like iStorage Broker, basically, right? So now I want to go here and say, I want to build something called a foundation service that connects all of these and offers capabilities where it connects to configuration broker. This is a configuration broker here. And this configuration broker will help us, configuration broker will help us kind of know what to provision and deprovision as we go in the system. So far, so good, right?
Okay.
No problem
Mm-hmm.
there.
Mm-hmm.
So this here will be your cloud service. And then on top of that cloud service, we want something to run in here called cloud processing service. Cloud processing service. And and this cloud processing service will basically help us. Okay, the cloud processing, I can hear myself, Yasser, for some reason. So feedback from your side, I think.
Mm,
Or am I too loud? Anyway, don't worry
no.
about it. So okay, so cloud processing service, and then on top of all of this is just a simple console application that says run. So it kicks off this guy. This guy goes and starts provisioning all these nice things that we talked about. That's all that it is. And it's all based on a particular configuration that we're going to be using to make that system happen. Cool?
Mm-hmm.
Let's go implement that. Right? So we're gonna go back into the infrastructure piece here. Let me spin up my IDE. And I'm gonna go down here. Here's Vazaar, and let's get started, my friend. So I'm gonna create a new branch here, and this new branch is going to be called the branch. So remotes, new branch. We we're gonna pair a little bit on that one. I'll show you in a second. Users, Hassan, Habib, infra, provision, project, initialize provision project, initialize provision project. Okay, so that's the branch. And now we're going to need to create a new project. The new project I'm going to create is just a simple console application. It's not really doing anything. It just needs to be kicked off from another pipeline. That's all that it is. So let's go here. Here's a console app. Next, I'm going to call it vazaar.core.api.infrastructure.provision. Okay, and this guy is .NET 7, right? .NET 7. Here we go. So far, so good, right? So there's .NET 7, we have everything. Now we're just gonna start basically, and you can see my screen clearly, right? Yeah, sorry, I hope.
Yeah, I can
Let,
see.
let's let's do this view because it makes the screen even bigger for
Yeah.
me. Okay. Now, let's start with the brokers as we usually do. So let's go down here into a folder and let's say brokers. And then under brokers, I'm gonna create clouds. Clouds. And under clouds, I'm going to create an interface. And this interface is going to be called iCloud Broker. iCloud Broker. Okay, let's put your
Mm.
copyrights in there to protect your intellectual. Oh, we didn't put one in the build as well. That's sad. Okay, let's fix that. Here's the build. No problem. And then let's put one in here. Okay. And this first guy doesn't matter really. We're not really putting much in it. It's just an iCloud broker. There's no magic there. So let's go there. Public partial. iCloud broker. Great. But the one that I really care about, and then of course we need its equivalent, which is the cloud broker. So this is cloudbroker.cs, and this guy is partialized, public partial, and this guy inherits from iCloud broker. Okay, and there are no requirements yet, so we should be in the safe side here. So far, so good, right? No problem there. Any questions so far? Any questions?
No.
Okay,
Yeah,
all
I'm
right.
clear. Mm.
Okay, we're clear, right? So let's start with the interesting stuff, right? In order for you to be able to authenticate against the cloud, you need to have some sort of, secrets like access codes that would allow you to run in the cloud, right? Like you can't just have a job that runs by itself in the cloud, without authenticating itself against the cloud system that it's running with, right? So how are we going to do that? We're going to create a bunch of variables in here, right? There's a bunch of class members. Here's your client ID. All of this is going to come from environment variables. Don't worry about it. So here's
Hmm.
client secret, C string, client secret. What else do we need? Yeah, sir. We need a tenant ID. Gosh, tenant ID, and we also need a private read-only string admin name. That's going to be for the database. And in here, it's going to be string admin access. Admin access. Admin access is basically the admin secret, right? And we'll talk a little bit about something called service principal. And wow, there's a lot of things I want to tell you about, man. The last thing I want to do is the Azure library that would allow me to create that. There's a nice NuGet package called Fluent Azure API that basically allows you to interact with Azure and build things in the cloud. So this is called iAzure. That's all that it's called, iAzure. And let's see if it can find the library for us. I just did control period, I think. But this preview version, yeah, there you go. Azure Management Fluent. Okay, so I'm pulling in this client. We're going to initialize it together. And this
Hmm.
client is the one that's going to allow us to kind of build instances in the cloud. Okay. Okay. Let's assign a few things here. So this dot client ID equals environment dot get environment variable, because you don't want to keep these things, handy. So it's Azure client ID. That's this guy. Let me minimize this a little bit so you can see. Here we go. And then I want to initialize the rest of those. So let me just, Visual Studio is too slow for me today. It's breaking. So this dot client secret, same thing, environment dot get environment variable. And this is Azure client secret, like this, secret, like this. And then this dot tenant ID, again, environment. So you're not keeping these secrets on your local machine in any way, shape, or form, right? But you can actually use Azure tenant ID. And then this dot admin name equal environment dot get environment variable. And this guy is Azure admin name. And then the last thing here, you can call these whatever you want, but I think this
Hmm.
is more consistent. So environment dot get environment variable, and this is Azure admin access. Okay, so we initialized all of these things. Now, all I want to do is to basically utilize all of this, right? We're not going to exactly utilize the last two. The last two will come with the database broker, and I'll talk about that in a second. But the one that I really care about is the guy that returns iAzure, so I can initialize that Azure guy so I can actually build my stuff, right? So
Hmm.
authenticate Azure, and here is Azure credentials. And this is credentials equals, and then I want to pull in something called SDK context, and this is coming from Azure Resource Manager. And this guy is going to say Azure Credentials Factory, and then we're going to go and say from, so see this part here, from system service principal. We're going to
Hmm.
talk about that a little bit, because this is like, you can actually pass in a tenant ID, username, password, or like client secret, and you can put that in something called Key Vault, or you can have that in the you can attach your environment variable to Key Vault. It's a little bit of a trip, but I'll explain it to you. It's not a problem. So
Hmm.
client ID, this dot client ID, very straightforward. And then what else it wants? It wants your client secret. This dot client secret, very straightforward. And what else? It probably wants the tenant ID. So tenant ID, this dot tenant ID, and then it wants the environment. And the environment here is, there is multiple environment where Azure can run. You'll see government, China cloud, global cloud, known environments, Azure global, Azure US government. These are all different clouds, different instances of Azure, right? So the one that we really want is just the normal global cloud. That's the one that you and I and everybody else uses. Okay, so this guy is
Hmm.
done. Now let's go and initialize this guy. So Azure, which also comes from the configuration, the SDK, and then I'm gonna go and say Azure dot, come on. This thing is asleep. Configure with log level. This is for logging if something goes wrong. HTTP logging, um, HTTP logging, delegating, handle, level basic. Yeah, I think level basic is all right. And then let's take this guy out. And you don't have to add the logging as well. This is just for you to be able to report an issue if anything happens in your system.
Mm-hmm.
Let me first cancel the freaking out of the box annoying whatchamacallit. Hold on. So where is edit the darn thing? Yeah, there you go. Disable. Jeez, this is ridiculous. Disable. Let's go back to this thing and hopefully this annoyance. Yeah. Oh, my head hurts from this thing. Oh my God. Oh my God, my head. Authenticate. Here's my credentials. And then the last thing I want to add is with default subscription. The default subscription is whatever subscription that that user that you're working with is working on. You can also specify a particular subscription if you want, but I don't want to complicate things for you. So with default subscription. Okay. So now this is coming back. Now that I can authenticate this, I can now go here and say this.azure equal authenticate Azure. Now, why are we going through all that hassle, for God's sake? Like, why do I need to do all that work in here to just initialize this guy? Because this guy is how you can build anything in the cloud, right? This guy has all the keys. Like if I go here and say, okay, void foo, let's just use it. Here's Azure. Look, 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 look. I want to build an app service. Look, application app service, right? And I can go and say, well, I want to create, let's see, Azure service, web apps. There you go. Come on, man. This thing is laggy. Web apps, right? And then you want to go and say define. And then now I'm going to go and say with existing Windows plan. See, remember the plan that I was talking about with
Mm-hmm.
region, right? I will show you all that stuff in a second.
Oh, so okay. So this is app service plan.
Yeah, an app service
Mm,
plan. Yeah.
mm,
I just call it a plan because even if you don't have an app service, you still need a plan for your servers and all that stuff. Okay.
mhm.
All right. So that guy is done. I can make a small commit here and I say, initialize infra, initialize cloud broker. So that guy started. We started working on that guy, right? So this guy's done. Let's go and add more stuff in it.
Mhm.
So the next thing I want to build here is that I want to, where do we start? The first thing we want to start with is a container, right, Yasser? I want
Yeah.
to go and say, I need the resource group. The beautiful
Mm,
thing about this structure here is that it's helping you map how your application is supposed to look like in the cloud. This is advanced DevOps programming for you. You're not touching the cloud, you're programming it.
mm,
So I'm gonna go ahead and say iStorage, iCloud broker dot resource groups.cs. So now I have the resource group. And all I really want is just go and say create resource group, right? So this is resource group, I think. That's what's it called. And then here create resource group async. And all I want is the resource group name. Look at this crazy AI thing. It's just reading what I'm thinking, right?
mm.
So so that's the resource group thing. Let's go and say we're gonna create a resource group. Get ready because it's gonna be your turn in a second, really, really soon, like literally right now.
Mhm.
So this is cloud broker dot, right? And then I want resource groups dot cs. Great. And this guy is partialized. Let's go, let's go. Partial. And now I want to implement that guy. Why do I want to implement that guy? Because if you go here, this guy will be complaining. Says, hey, you told me you're gonna give me a function and you didn't. Okay, so public value task, I think. And this is resource group. I should probably fix the signature on the other one. And this is create resource group async. And there's your resource group name. This is too long. Let's break it a little bit. Once you start exceeding a certain limit, is string. And then let's go down here. like this, and let's start working with this guy. So here's the deal, my friend. If I go like this dot Azure, now I already have access to this guy. Look, this dot Azure dot resource groups dot, right, and then define, right, and here's my resource group name. I think it wants a resource group name, right? I think that's pretty much okay. Let me do define, and then underneath that, I still need to create it. Let's see. With region, I want my region to be region. We want US West. Is there India in here? So I can, yeah, India Central. Are you Central or
Yeah, central.
South? Central? Okay.
Mm.
With region. What else? We don't want tags. Don't care about tags. The tags is basically for security teams when they're working with multiple groups in a big corporate, so they can find your resource groups and pinpoint which ones need to be, revisioned and revised and stuff like that. It's like a poor man's search engine kind of thing. Okay,
Hmm.
we have all of this and create a sync. What does this guy return? What do you think this guy return? Returns an I resource group. Await async. So that creates a resource group. Look at that. Let's just fix we need to fix that abomination that we did earlier. This guy is called a value task. Resource, hold on. Okay, it's gonna be your turn in a second. It's not gonna be an easy task, so good luck. Here, value task, like this. Okay, perfect, perfect. Look at that, beauty. It works, it creates a resource group. Any questions about that one? It couldn't be any simpler, right?
Hmm.
That's because I'm giving you the like I'm doing the easy stuff. You do the hard stuff. Okay?
Okay.
Okay, you're gonna still need to add another function in here, right? But I'm gonna tell you about it in a second. Okay, so
Hmm.
here is this is here, brokers, create resource group. And I'm pushing this over to you. Now it's your turn, my friend. Make sure your screen size is at the good size.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. I'm sharing my screen.
Hmm. Okay, I can see you now, Mr. Bright Mode. Let's go.
So yeah,
Why are you so
you
bright? Go ahead. Yes, I'm listening. Go ahead.
you have pushed the code now.
Yeah, now you just need to go find the branch. So open up Visual Studio. Do you
Okay.
even Visual Studio, bro? Do you? Here, I'm
I have
removing.
multiple project files.
Well, you need to open the one we want to work on today.
I will share my Visual Studio.
Sharing Visual Studio would be a great idea, I
Hmm.
think. Not sure how it relates to what we're doing, but I love it.
Right.
Brilliant. There. Dark mode is back. Yay! Okay, now find my branch and let's do stuff. How do you find my branch? Well, you need to open the Progy first. So if you open recent, go to recent projects and solutions. This guy at the very bottom. Yep, and then pick up that Vazaar core. Yep. You're gonna work today. Not every day you're gonna just be sitting here and watching me. You're gonna have to write some code today, okay? It's kind of
Okay.
important. Okay.
Hmm.
Okay.
So yeah,
Mm.
I have changed the, you know, I've scaled the desktop, my display
Yeah,
for
it's perfect.
150. Mm.
Yeah, the screen is perfect. Love it.
Mhm.
The screen is just perfect. Okay, now open in solution mode. And this guy
Oh,
at the very
this is this is not the version
no,
that
no,
we need.
it's just because it's just because your main is not up to date. Click on 00 and do a sync. And double click on the solution, please, so we can see. No, no, no. 0/0. Do you see it?
Hmm.
Yeah, just do a sync. Mm. This
Yesterday
this
I
mm.
yesterday I have changed this. This is a different path that we open. It's okay now. We have synced. Okay.
Yeah. So now
Hmm.
let's find now find my branch. What was my branch called? Go to remotes. Type in type in the provision. Look at
Hmm.
that. Magic.
Yeah.
Now click on that guy. All right. What function do I want you to implement, Mr. Yasser?
Hmm.
I want you to implement a function that checks whether a resource group already exists or not. And you
Okay.
need to open this in solution mode. Okay.
Okay.
All
Here it
right.
is.
So here's the brokers. Let's go to the interface for iCloud broker. And then we want the iCloud broker resource groups.
Hmm.
And then we want something that returns a value task of a boolean that says check resource group exists async. So we
Over
need
here, and the
yeah, we need a new
and the research.
function,
Hmm.
a new prototype, new function that says check resource groups. So value task boolean. No, you need to define the return type first. Value
Okay.
task boolean, and then check resource group exist async. And it takes a resource group name. There you go. Zoom out a little bit so we can see stuff. Yeah, there you go. So now we need to implement that, Yasser. What are we gonna do?
Uh, we need to create a class for this.
No, we already have a class for
We
this.
already
That's the one I
in
used, right?
yeah, in the research group class we already have it.
Yeah,
Okay. We'll
let's
have it.
implement it. Mm.
This is not complaining. We have added on the
It'll
iCloud broker.
complain. It'll complain at the node level, like cloudbroker.cs. You'll see the complaint.
Uh-huh.
You didn't save the other file. Now go back to the complaining.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Let's go
Okay.
to that partial file and implement the function. Here we go. He jumps,
Public
he dunks, he scores. uh, check resource group
check.
exists async. We need that function so we know when to create a resource group and when to reuse the existing one.
Mhm.
Mhm,
Async.
mhm. Go to the other line. This is going too far. Mhm. So let's see if this Azure guy has anything interesting. Do await return. Well, you can fat arrow this because it's only one line, but let's just do return first. Do return and then await this dot Azure. And then what are we checking? A resource group, right?
Mhm.
So does
Check
the
this.
Azure have resource group in it? No, no, no. Stay with the Azure guy. What does this Azure guy what can this Azure guy do for me to check whether a resource group exists or not? Let's see if this Fluent API really fluent. So if you do Azure dot, what are the options there? Hmm. Does it have resource group anyway? Resource groups, perfect. And then dot. Let's see if it,
Check
looks
existence.
check. So there is check exists, right?
Hmm.
So that's one, but check exists doesn't really work the way I wanted it to. So there is another thing called contains async. So contains async.
Contain async.
Yep, get that
Hmm.
guy and pass in the resource group there. What does this guy return? Yeah, sir. Boolean, which
Boolean.
is
Yeah.
exactly what we're looking for.
Mm.
So
So
let's
we can
return
remove
this
this.
guy.
Mm.
How about we fat arrow it?
Uh, yeah.
Since it's only one line, right? Put the fat arrow on the next line. Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yep. That's it. Okay, why is this guy complaining? Because we didn't await it yet, right? It's an asynchronous call, right? Hmm. And we don't need the return because we already have a fat arrow.
Yeah.
There you go. If you move that resource group up by one, it's only 62 characters. So move resource group name by one, like no, the input parameter, move it up by one with the fat arrow.
This one.
Like both the input parameter and the fat arrow, move them up to the next line. Yeah, that's okay. How long is this line?
Uh,
Click on it. Click on the end of the fat arrow. 94. Do you know where I can see that? Do you see it? Character 94 at the very bottom.
yeah. Right. Bottom corner.
We
Hmm.
can't go beyond 120. Okay, you implemented it, my friend. You just gave us a new capability. Now,
Hmm.
commit that and push it back to me so I can implement the last one.
So on a new, on
Nope.
the same branch.
Yep, same branch. Just click on the pencil and just say brokers, colon, and then, yep, brokers, colon, check resource group exist. Yep, give it back to me. Commit all and push. Yay! It's my turn now, right? So I
Hmm.
get to implement the last one. And the last capability that we need, if we are able to create resource group, we should be able to destroy resource groups, right? So I need to be able to go and say delete resource group async, yes? So let me sync this guy real quick. And delete resource group doesn't really return anything and I don't care, right? So let's go back into the iCloud broker. We don't need that empty line between one-liners. Now there isn't one. Okay, perfect. And then I'm gonna go here and say, well, I'm gonna put check resource group up here because of the order of things. And you also do check the resource group first before you create or delete. And then I'm gonna go here and say value task and then delete. Look at this guy. How does it know I'm gonna write that? Look at this. It's stealing. Hmm, it's reading
Reading.
GitHub. It's reading GitHub and it's seeing consistent patterns. and it's saying I know what you're gonna do next. It's a
Mhm.
glorified copy pasta machine. That's what Copilot is. Now my Visual Studio is just frozen on me. It's like, listen,
Mhm.
dude, I don't want to work with you anymore. I'll just give it a second. Here we go. All right, great. So delete that. That's really mind blowing that it just figured out that stuff. That's really, really creepy. Delete resource. Well, I guess so. Okay, fine. I did it to myself. Okay. Okay. Delete resource group async string. There you go. Resource group name. Okay. Now let's go implement that guy, right? So I'm gonna go down here, resource groups. I'm gonna move this guy up by one like this.
Is it Alt and up arrow key or Control when
Yeah,
you
if
moved
you
it up?
yeah, if you select all of it like oh sorry. If you select all of them like this
Mhm.
and you keep pressing on Alt and you go up and down,
Mhm.
it'll
Okay.
work with you. Yeah, the less you use the mouse while you're working, the more likely you are to be much faster than anybody else. I'll
Mhm.
tell you that much. Okay, cool. So you see someone using the mouse, be like, all right, I can beat that guy, especially in hackathons and stuff like that. You're like, this guy is easy, easy
Mhm.
peasy. Okay. Okay, let's implement the last one. So public async value task, delete resource group async string resource group name. And here is this guy. We could probably fat arrow this one as well. Await this dot Azure resource groups, delete async, done. How crazy is that? String, delete resource groups, done. Right? Why is this
Mhm.
guy complaining? Because resource groups does not contain. Oh, this thing fooled me. Let's see. Delete. Come on, give me something. Let's go. Delete by name async. Yeah. So it tried to be smart and write the code for me, and I trusted it. This is what's going to happen to us in the future.
Mhm.
We're going to be like, well, that's the robot that said that. It must be right, right? But in reality, the robot will be fooling us. Anyway, so this, my friend here, this is brokers, delete resource group by name. The next time you and I meet, this branch, this work is on draft, right?
Mhm.
It's gonna take about 2 or 3 sessions to wrap this up. So just heads up. We're gonna need to talk about creating the plan, and then we need a broker to create the app service. App service is gonna be the last thing you create. You create a database server, you create a database, create app insights, and then you create an app service. And then I'm gonna run it for you locally just to show you how it kind of creates and provisions things in the cloud. And I can also show you a little recording that I did a while back with experimentation where I was showing people how to kind of build these systems and make it work properly. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
What do you think
Yeah.
about our session today? It's pretty cool, right?
Mhm.
You're still building brokers and services. Just so you understand, and for the people watching us, I am using software to prove this tri nature of everything theory. You can break anything into a broker, processing and exposure, and it works like a charm because it's embedded in nature, right? So hopefully next time we'll be able to make even more progress. And what do you think, Yasser? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
All right.
We
So
can
tell
go
them
ahead now. Next will be creating a resource plan,
we need to create the plan, app service
hmm
plan, and we need to create a database server
database server,
and then a
the
database
database.
so we can put the database inside the server and then maybe app insights and then last we can create the web app or app service,
Mm-hmm. All right. Okay.
right? And then we
hmm
implement functionality like oh, I need to call the configuration broker so I can get the name of this thing that you're trying to build, and then I want to provision and deprovision. The provision project takes a little bit of time, but you're going to find it really fascinating and interesting, especially
hmm
that you know you're trying to standardize everything. You want to write everything in C sharp. I make it simple and easy so people can understand it, but also at the same time, it gets you to kind of think about the whole picture of your application, the entire infrastructure, not just one piece or that piece. You'll see a lot of engineers working so many years and they're just living in one box. You're like, I don't know how this app gets deployed. That's a mystery to me. And they'll tell you, I'm not interested. Why are you not interested? Right? I like to work with entrepreneurial, innovative engineers, people that can envi envision and visualize a product end to end and take it to the market and serve it to people. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, so other than that, for people watching us, I hope you found this a little bit useful. These are like baby steps, but Yasser is going to get really fast, and hopefully Visual Studio is going to get really fast, and as usual, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, or compliments for Mr. Yasser here, please feel free to drop a comment in the comment section, and don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll see you in another video. Take care, Yasser.
Take care.